Hello, everyone. This is the MSPoweruser Podcast. This is the podcast for the Microsoft enthusiast and power user. We discuss the latest news from MSPoweruser.com and other great sources of Microsoft news around the world. My name is Vernon E.L. Smith, and as usual, I'm joined by Andy Bennett. Andy, how you doing, man?
Oh, man, I'm doing pretty good. This week's been a little whatever because of weather, allergies, and whatever, but next week I'm really excited for that because I'll be getting that Xbox One S to do the review for MSPoweruser.
Oh, wow.
It's still going to be the launch model. It's going to be exciting. And we're going to talk a little more about it later on in the show because they announced the release dates for other models. But the very first one, the 2 terabyte model, $400 American dollars plus tax, comes out on August 2nd. So I'll be getting that on launch day, hopefully. It'll be fun.
That's cool. That's really cool. I did not know you were getting that as a review device. That's going to be awesome, man.
Well, it's coming out of my own pocket, but I'm going to be reviewing it.
Oh, okay. All right. I understand. Well, either way, that's going to be awesome. That's going to be cool. Excited for you.
And, how's your week been?
Oh, man, it's been crazy, actually. Maybe I alluded to last episode. Took a week off of work for some family stuff going on, and a lot of my family is coming to visit from all over the place. And so this week of, quote unquote vacation is incredibly taxing. It's quite a challenge. And plus working on things around the house, getting ready to sell our house eventually. And, of course, working out at my mom's, getting things ready out there. I think I covered myself in the most lawn clippings I've ever done, just mowing the lawn and just sweat. It was warm out, so no shirt and just like all these lawn pieces of grass and everything just stuck to me, and whatever.
It's like a superhero origin story. You're lawn man.
Lawn man, that's right. That wasn't the highlight of my week, but that's just an example of what I've been doing. And of course, today, for example, my wife and I and the kids, we all looked at 6 or 7 different homes, pretty much all day, looking at houses that we may or may not purchase. And it's a busy week. Yeah,
and moving on towards talking about some of the stuff that's happened to MSPoweruser this week, the MSPU app has been updated again. Some of you might have noticed this already, but there's now what's called priority notifications. Now, previously, the option was that you would get notifications for everything. That we post like 30 articles a day, so that can be a little annoying. Well, the priority notifications fix that issue entirely. Certain articles will be marked as priority, and only those will go out as notifications. It keeps your Action Center free of clutter, and it's good for everybody involved. There's also there's also a couple of bug fixes included with this update, including a fix for an issue where quotes wouldn't show up in posts, which, it's fixed.
Yeah. Very good update and very useful new feature. I like that, and it's if you have not already installed this app, please do so, guys. It makes things so much better. Apps, whatever, just you take advantage of the notification center, action center kind of thing, and toast pop-ups and all that kind of thing. You get the idea.
Yep. And next thing on the agenda. Oh, okay, go.
Twitter has been all aflutter, it does on occasion, and lately it is all about this Windows 10 update, the last creeping up on the very down to the wire. And come on, this makes sense. You should have updated by now, and people keep pushing it down to the wire. I don't know of anyone who's actually saying, "Oh, I suppose I better finally install it." But come on, people, we're getting there.
I know of 2 groups. People who say, I'm so glad I've got all my PCs on Windows 10, and people who say, I am so glad the notification's going to go away. I'll just upgrade when I get a new PC in the next month or 2.
I don't understand that. Why would you not? I guess maybe for just comparison, just to have Windows 7 people that are those diehards. Like I'm still running Windows 7 on my work PC, not by choice.
There's some people who just, I think they just want to have, all right, I have this that will always work, always be what I used to know, so I can just go back to this until it quits working if I need to. Which,
yeah, but that,
I guess that's,
I don't know.
For some people, it's reasonable.
It's years old. Let's go.
For the majority,
pretty much nobody's on Windows 8. I mean, it's all these people holding out on Windows 7.
Yeah, for Windows 8 to Windows 10, it's basically just really almost a normal update. I mean, there's, aside from the theme changes, it was originally planned to be an update for 8.1 anyways, so pretty reasonable upgrade plan there. You don't really lose anything.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, Cortana is a huge part of the Windows 10, which is I love Cortana, and it's continuing to grow and get involved with many more things on the PC. Well, you could just toggle it off at the very top of the settings in Windows 10, the current version. But with the Windows 10 anniversary update, that is going away, where you can't just shut it off. Now, for most people, you want Cortana on, okay? Why would you not? And especially people listening to this podcast, I would imagine there's no reason for you to shut this off. But there are those out there who will complain about this. You cannot just toggle it off, but you can go in there and just clear out the data. And of course, to get to that point where Cortana is activated, you need to sign in. So it doesn't mean that, to fire up your PC, a Windows 10, you need to have a Microsoft ID. You need to log in with that, understandable. Well, there may be ways around that, but it strongly funnels you towards that. But once you're to that point, you still need to enable Cortana in the first place anyway. It does not default to being on. But once it's in there, that's where that toggle off is not very evident. And there will be blowback on this and people complaining. And I would imagine they will eventually make it a little bit easier to turn it back off. But in the meantime, you can just clear all the data, yada, yada. It's nothing to fret over, but people will fret.
And something that also is pretty nice, and something maybe you should have mentioned a little bit earlier, is that by the time this podcast is published in the morning, Windows 10 will be 1 year old. That's right, folks. July 29th, free upgrade offer's over. It's been 1 year. One really eventful year.
Yay.
And that leads into the anniversary update coming up in August. Which is it's an exciting time to be a Microsoft enthusiast again. There's plenty of cool stuff coming in this update. You've got and all sorts of stuff we'll talk about later on in the podcast too. We got a segment where we'll go over some of the great features coming up in the anniversary update, like the universal Skype apps. But also talking about Windows 10 and this year going on. The upgrade campaign for Windows 7 and 8.1, but as Vernon mentioned a little bit earlier, mostly 7. Anyone on 8's already upgraded. More people are starting to sue over the Windows 10 update campaign. A previous suit was won, so the lawyers are all out in force, because if one suit has been won, expect many, many, many more of these from here on out. There's that one bullet in there, so they're just going to keep on firing while they're down. It's going to be interesting, really, because I fully expect most of these to be won by the people suing Microsoft, and the monetary implications of that should be, well, it'll be something to watch, for sure.
But they cannot do a class action suit, as I understand. But it is something that they can't, as I understand it, like if someone sues for lost time, I couldn't update, or I was forced to I was forced to update and it lost me, time and I could have spent with my clients, and I could have made $10,000 in these few days that I didn't have this app or my PC available to me. Well, then they can sue privately in a private. I don't know what it is. Why am I even talking about this? It's not like we know it's not it can't be class action, but you can't have the Microsoft's top lawyers there. They have to be like third-party lawyers or something. I don't quite understand this, but like you said, Andy, there will be more of these, and I think it's going to blow over pretty soon. There'll be some people just trying to get some money out of it, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not really going to hurt the steamroller of updating that Microsoft has going.
Yeah. And, speaking about updating, there's something you might know a little more about than me coming up, and it's for an app called Insteon, which was apparently kind of popular during the Windows 8 days, and it's finally starting to work again on 10.
Yeah, Insteon, smart home. I have my entire home outfitted in smart home automation. No, I actually have kids, and I tell them to go do these things. So no, I do not have a smart home. Perhaps when we buy our new place, we may invest in some of this stuff. But to me, it's just not. Like if my wife was a all-out geek or my kids were way into this kind of thing, maybe I would. But it's not that appealing to me. I like the concept of it down the road, but I'm fine without it. Anyway, Insteon was a good partner with Microsoft, especially to begin with a few years ago, and they have finally updated the Windows Phone, which is now Windows Mobile, obviously, and they've updated that app as long as Windows 10, and it's nice. I mean, some of the things you can do with Insteon, of course, is just generally control your home, the automated things in your home from the app. View the cameras. You can create different schedules and modify lighting and things like that. And then the sensors that you have in there, you can get instant alerts. The app itself doesn't have any fees. And let's see, there's a quick status of sensors on the quick view page, which is kind of nice. It's not something that I necessarily use, but it is very appealing down the road. Just haven't, whatever, eventually.
You mentioned having kids do all the work. It's a case where you don't have to worry about servers going down. You just have to worry about one kid having a temper tantrum.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's true. And one of the reasons I was running late today was that one kid did have a temper tantrum, and we, in the dramatic, I'll pull this car over, I didn't warn. I just dramatically slowed down drastically and pulled over and pretty much drove into the ditch, shakes people up a little psychologically, not recklessly, but drive down
you just need an empty road where you can just slam the brakes. That gets the message across very clear.
Yep. So I had to get out and very sternly, I didn't get too in depth, but I don't have to pull over very often to do that, and so he got the message, and that's good. Anyway, something not related at all. Evernote. We use OneNote I use OneNote for everything. Just about almost literally everything. Okay.
I don't really see much reason to use anything other than OneNote unless you just want to experiment with something, because OneNote is on every platform. It's good on every platform, but yeah, there's other Note apps still.
Yeah. Evernote is great. I won't bash it one bit. There are plenty of people who are very satisfied with it. But recently, Leo Laporte, everyone knows Leo Laporte, he has been using Evernote for like 10 years or something. And he recently ported everything over from Evernote to OneNote. And the port over actually worked relatively well. He said that the cost-wise, it was actually, Evernote raised their prices just a little bit. And that now OneNote is basically just included in Office 365. And Evernote is the price of Office 365. So it's like, how do you, whatever. I have not used Evernote enough to really give a balanced opinion on this. I'm very satisfied with OneNote. The news article here, basically, the point reason we're bringing this up is that it is planning to launch a new app for Windows 10 PCs. Now, there was the Windows Touch version, which was, as they called it, it was like an extension. It was a companion app to Evernote. And now basically they're pulling that back, the touch version, and they're using a full, I would call it a desktop app, which has everything in there. And, that's good. It's not actually available yet. It's not going to be available until the anniversary update is pushed out. And then, it's kind of interesting. People will need to update to the anniversary update to get this. And I don't know, whatever. I guess it's a good thing that they are updating it. That's nice that there's people on board with it.
Having options is always nice. You just don't always need them.
And to be fair, OneNote is great. We love it. But it's good that there is a competitor to OneNote because that way it keeps them fresh. It keeps OneNote iterating and staying ahead of the game, and I like that.
Yeah. And another thing, another universal app getting launched, though not exactly a specific universal app, it's now possible to get, it's now possible to develop games for the Universal Windows platform using Unreal Engine 4, which this comes after some comments by Tim Sweeney where he had some memories of Microsoft's old plans in the 90s where they did everything in their power to try and screw up Java, but he now thinks that they're going to do everything in their power to screw up Steam, which there's plenty that can be said, but I'm just going to say that really he's a little paranoid. He's got his reasons for being paranoid, but we are no longer at that stage at all. Anyways, though, for anyone who isn't familiar with him, Tim Sweeney is with Epic Games. He was one of the people who developed the Unreal Engine, and just days after speaking out against Windows 10, Unreal Engine all of a sudden ends up on Windows 10, and it's like, I doubt he had anything to do with this. Even if he did, he's still a businessman, so not really much of a victory for... it's not much of a gotcha moment, as some people seem to think it is. Regardless, though, Unreal Engine 4, big engine, really cool to have it here, and it's really cool to see where the Windows 10 gaming platform is going to go. There's all sorts of improvements that are coming with the anniversary update, and I just fully expect things to start getting really good within a year. It's going to take some time, but I think that within a year, they can get things to a point where I'm able to look at that and go, yeah, I might buy games on the Windows Store as well as Steam. So that'll be nice.
Nice. That's cool. Just expanding options. I love that. Speaking of expanding options, we've got a great post up on the site right now. The top 10 features of Windows 10. Of course, rolling out the anniversary update is what I'm referring to. And there's a lot of good things in here. We'll just kind of go down the list here. Well, I guess at number 1, you can start off there, Andy.
All right. So the most noticeable change with the Windows 10 anniversary update is also the most noticeable change with the original Windows 10 release 1 year ago. It's the Start menu. Now, while the original change to the Windows 10 Start menu was that it was a hybrid Start menu of Windows 8 and 7 designs. You have the one half that's tiles, one half that's that left side with most used apps, etc., etc. Well, that's been cleaned up a bit. It's a bit less jarring to use for some people. I'm not totally sure about it yet, but it's still a good design. Now, it's much more consistent with the design of universal apps, like, say, you take Groove. You have that hamburger menu with the icons in it. You can expand and close it. That's what we have here now on the left side. You are able to click a hamburger menu to expand all of your links, which are now turned into icons, as well as your user picture, and just go through that. And additionally, you no longer have to click all apps. Instead, it's just the all apps list from beginning with most used and recently installed apps at the top of that list. And that part is one that's a very reasonable design. I can get behind that. And now this next one is one that is something that a lot of people have been asking for. Vernon, take it away.
Yeah, well, just to finish up on the Start menu, I really did like the Start menu in 8. And part of it being that I wasn't in the Start menu very much for 8 or 8.1. I was basically in an app or program. I was doing something, and then I would go back to the Start menu to open up my top, just near whatever's nearby on a tablet or on the PC, and you could sync them up, and you wouldn't necessarily want them laid out the same way depending on what you're doing. But I was completely fine with that, and I was totally fine just swiping up to do a full app list. And of course, you can still do a menu or a Windows key, and then start to type a search. That hasn't changed. And so, in general, I don't really like the hamburger menu, and that's mostly because what I do, my interaction with Windows is almost always touch, almost always on the phone. Now, I'm in a small minority there. I understand that. But to me, the hamburger menu is okay on the PC because you're using a mouse. You don't, reach is not a problem. But on a device, on a touch device, you need to be accessible, and the top left of the display is the furthest place from most people's thumbs. I've complained about this before, whatever. People know my stance on this. The start menu improving. I love that it is improving, satisfying more people. That's wonderful. It just isn't necessarily doing much more for me. One thing that is doing much more for me as far as an update here is the dark theme. Dark theme throughout Windows is amazing. I love it. It's just great. Something I've enjoyed with Windows since Windows Phone 7, 2010. I had dark theme throughout. I loved it, and I continue it on. I mean, that's just one of my favorite things about it, and I think that's going to continue on. Think about Star Trek. 1986, 1987 is when the Next Generation came out. The LCARS, the display that they used, the kind of UI language that they used for their stuff, used dark theme. Well, I think that was futuristic back then. I think 2010 Windows Phone having dark theme, it primarily was futuristic and wise. And I love that Windows 10 proper, let's call it Big Windows, has that pretty much throughout, and it's continuing to perpetuate and to move out into other apps and everything. I love that.
And another thing that has the dark theme, the new modern Skype apps.
Yay! So that's another thing that I am thrilled with. I use Skype a lot. I hated the white, the nasty blue on white UI. Ugh. I mean, both in the mobile apps and a desktop. And it's really nice to see that they are coming. That the Skype preview, basically the universal app, universal and modern app coming out has dark theme is huge, but also all the other things that's built into it. I love the direction they're going with that.
I'm really excited to give it a try. I've mentioned it. I think it was last week that I don't have the anniversary update on this main PC yet. And so I'm mostly using Skype on my phone because the desktop app, slow and bloated, you are not getting slow and bloated with these universal apps, and that is great.
Mm-hmm.
It's the easiest way to fix some problems with stuff sometimes is just build it from the ground up, and that's what we have here. It isn't a Centennial app, which those are coming to the store too. That's going to be nice, but it's completely built from the ground up for the modern platform, and it's great looking. I don't know. I'm excited. I'm excited.
Well, there are some bugs to work out as far as mobile. I'm not running it on the desktop, the preview app, but on mobile, it's still a little bit. It's a little bit slow. There's still some features that we're missing, and I think a little bit later we're probably going to dig in, not in this episode, but I think coming up here, I will dig into some of the specifics of what this needs and what man, that'd be cool if I actually took some time to do a blog post on it, or article on it. Yeah, we'll see. I don't want to overpromise here. Anyway, modern Skype is, I love the direction they're going with that, even though there are people who are not happy with it. At times I was unhappy with the direction they were going with it. But one thing included with this is messaging everywhere. Now, messaging everywhere is not how it used to be a few builds ago. They pulled that out where it was very direct, and how do I say it? It was what they're doing now is basically messaging everywhere. To do that, you're going into the Skype app, where before messaging everywhere was in the messaging app using Skype. Now, does that delineation make sense, Andy, or should I elaborate on that?
It makes sense.
Okay.
The whole debacle just confuses me, but that part I can understand at least.
Okay. Basically, Skype will be the service that will reroute your messaging, and so that will be the back end, and so you can text message from the Skype app. Now, that doesn't mean that you can. It's different than sending Skype messages through the messaging app, and that was the original way it was going to happen. That's how everyone loved it, and now it's I think a Skype itself as a separate company, basically, which it's debatable if that's actually happening or not, whatever that is. I think they're trying to throw their weight around a little bit and to make sure that I don't know what the deal is with that. I was surprised they even went with the dark theme. I thought they wanted to keep that ugly blue and white, but
I don't think the blue and white's bad until it's 3 a.m. and you all of a sudden get a message and it's like, oh boy, here comes the iNuke.
Well, the thing is, yeah, exactly. But the thing is, like the Skype app on iOS is not as bothersome because it fits with the whole UI of the entire ugliness that I experience. And, same thing on Android. There's plenty of, I would say, less pretty apps in Android compared to Windows 10 Mobile. Now, there's plenty of sore thumbs in Windows 10 Mobile, but most of those are because they're old. They have not been updated yet. I love the direction they're going. Like I said before, with the dark theme and whatever, I won't dwell on that. Another thing that they're updating, one great feature of Windows 10 is Windows Ink. And this is something I'm less familiar with, but basically, as we move forward in a more touch interface, as we continue to the interactivity that we have with our PCs is more touch based. It makes sense for this to be a stronger part of it, and not just inking as far as writing. Of course, that's been around, but that's getting improved. But also as far as drawing and other forms of expression, I think that's amazing. I have not used it enough. Typically, I only use the stylus when it comes down to just plain old taking notes. That I've talked about how my experiences with that before. But I like that this is in the top. I guess in the article, it is number 5, and I'm glad it's coming. My next one's mine too as well. Whoops, Edge. So in mobile, Edge Mobile. That's not necessarily coming out August 2nd. That's going to be, as far as the anniversary update, that's going to be rolling out a little bit later to mobile. But the back-end forward buttons are going to be added in there. This is not mind-blowing, whoop-de-doo, but it's something that we had even back in Windows Phone 7. Or I should say with 8.1, you had swiping forward and back to navigate. And that got pulled out. That's back in, and now we have back and forward buttons in there. On the desktop, you can run extensions in Edge. It's not there in mobile. I don't know if it'll ever show up, at least not in the next few years. The extensions, Andy, why don't you talk about extensions here? Because I don't use them nearly to the extent that you do.
So, yeah, extensions. They were supposed to come to Windows Mobile at one point, but I believe that they've since gone back on that, and I don't remember if they've said, no, they're not coming at all, or they just silently removed any references to it since they seem to be a fan of that. But, yeah, on the desktop, they're here, and from what I've heard, they're pretty good. You have what you'd expect. You've got AdBlock, you have LastPass, you have... I think you got Ghostery? Or no, Ghostery's coming soon. But you've got the general suite of add-ons that you would expect to see on Chrome or Firefox, and it's really easy to port them from Chrome. That was something that was hyped up all the way back in, I think, early 2015. So it's nice to finally have them here.
Number 7 on our top 10 features of Windows 10 anniversary update, we have the Action Center. Action Center has continued to improve. I like it. One thing that you can do now is you can stream your notifications. So crossing them, porting them across from an Android or iOS device using Cortana to the desktop and vice versa. Cortana is the back end and the link for that. It's both the back end and the interface, the front end. I love that. Cortana is great. There's many things you can do with that. Just as simple as, I had my phone on silent. Well, then I get a pop up on my monitor or on the desktop. Hey, you had a missed call, and right from there you can reply. Hey, I'm sorry, I'm busy. I'm ignoring you, just so you know, or whatever I need to reply with, and that is nice. And that's just an example of many. I
actually believe that's coming to Android as well. I know some of the features are already there, but if you go into Cortana on Android and you take a look in settings, it's got settings that are currently marked in beta for Windows Insiders, etc., etc. So that shouldn't just be for Windows Phone users, so that's nice.
Yeah, exactly. Both iOS and Android have that potential. I think that Android is
I
enabled.
don't think iOS has it, as it's so locked down, but Android, they're able to do all sorts of stuff they can't do with iOS.
I was thinking there was something, but I guess I have not. Here's the thing: this is enabled for Android, Android, regular, general release, any of the OS versions. If you're using Cortana, but to enable that on the PC, you need to have an insider build, at least at this time. And so with Windows 10 anniversary update, this is going to be more generally available. Man, I thought for sure there was something on iOS, but I really could be.
They have
mistaken
Cortana
on
on iOS, but it's a hollow shell of what it should be.
it's mostly just search, but I mean voice
Yeah.
search works fine. Yeah, but I mean you can set up. It actually Cortana on iOS actually works pretty well as far as predicting the AI stuff you want it to do. Hey, you have an upcoming appointment which is a conflicting, or you have reminders, geofencing reminders work just fine with it. There's a lot of things that Cortana on iOS work well, that do well. To be honest, it actually, to the extent that I use Cortana, which is not full extent, I would say the iOS app is just about as good as it is on Windows 10 Mobile, which is saying something. But sadly, it is not uncommon depending on which app you
Yeah,
have.
it's still missing some features though, like some of the stuff we just talked about. But
Yeah. Correct.
anyways, so another cool thing coming up in the anniversary update is that you'll be able to use universal apps on your Xbox One. Now, I don't believe there's any set date for the Xbox One anniversary update yet. It should be coming out later than PC and mobile, though. It's not on August 2nd. They're still ironing things out, I believe. There's still preview builds getting pushed almost every day. There's been one for the past 3 days. Not one tonight, but there were changes for Cortana on there that was server-side. But anyways, yeah, you'll be able to use all sorts of universal applications on your Xbox One. And this opens up a lot of room for people to toy around with stuff you wouldn't normally see on a console. I've already seen videos of people using DOSBox that was ported to Universal Platform. They were running Duke Nukem 3D on their Xbox One, and it's like, hey, that's nifty. Yet, like, you'd normally see people spend months trying to port emulators over to consoles, but no. There's this easy thing that enables all this toying around, and it's like, I'm excited to see what people do with this stuff.
Cool. Well, I eventually will have more experience with that, and I have very little right now. Something I do have experience with is Continuum. I love Continuum. I really love the potential for it. And of course, I'm speaking of, when we think of Continuum, we think of the mobile, Windows 10 mobile, connecting to a display and expanding the capabilities of the apps. Well, Continuum used to be, before that Continuum, it was basically a tablet, a Continuum mode, where you can switch between desktop and tablet mode. But also what they're calling Continuum is basically the Continuum PC. So, for example, I can have my little my Acer, I always forget what the name of this silly thing, the Acer VivoTab Note 8, and potentially, and I haven't tried this, but there will be an app coming which will allow me to take what's on my display and cast it to someone else's PC. So I don't actually need to the PC itself. It doesn't mean I have to plug in the wireless display adapter into their monitor. So I like that, especially when you have multiple devices in which you are, multiple users, I should say, and you're working in I'll just call it an office or work environment, and you're presenting something, you're sharing something. And so, not just a tablet, but I mean a laptop, Surface, whatever. Or potentially even you got two people, I guess you could have two towers, two desktops next to each other, two different workstations. You're like, hey, I'll just send it over to you, bud. And I would imagine you need Bluetooth enabled. I don't know the specifics of this. I should learn a little more about that part of it. But I love that capability is coming, and I think it's amazing. I love what Microsoft's doing with this.
Yeah, there's just so many neat features getting thrown in here, and it's like, I can't imagine that everyone's going to know about or instantly use all of these, but the thing is, there's going to be at least someone out there who's going to have their lives made significantly easier by some of this stuff, and it's just a really neat list of features. You can't really complain about new features as long as it's not breaking or removing old ones, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And one more thing, that making lives easier. We did talk about Cortana a little bit, but that's basically the back end and the front end of Action Center. But Cortana itself is continued to be improved upon. To begin with, when people first used it on Windows 10, it felt invasive to some. They were not satisfied with how it felt like it was just digging in really deep. And now there's updating to where it's more granular control. You can toggle things off, you can clear out the search and that type of thing. Another thing that's improving is the Cortana right on the lock screen, which is nice. And that is just one more of the things they're going to continue to build upon, making a desktop, say a laptop or a desktop, or even the say a tablet, making that more like how it is on mobile devices. And so those, even just using the Hey space Cortana, it still caught it. My PC still caught it, even though I tried to. Oh, come on. So I guess that's good. I don't know if that's good or bad. And so I like the direction where they're going with this, improving upon it, and the fact that Cortana's tentacles, I don't mean that in a bad way, the reach is broad.
I think it's more like roots than tentacles. Tentacles got a bit of a bad connotation.
Yeah.
Like a movie monster or something, but like this is more roots.
I would say the
in there,
roots
gets sturdy, and the tree starts to grow.
Yeah, I mean the foundation of it and how it ties in with the other Microsoft services, I would consider those roots. And then I would say the branches, it reaches out and it's into the other operating systems, like we just talked about, iOS and Android. And I think that's great. Microsoft is making wise choices with that. I like it.
Now it gets to the point where we've talked about good news so long, we got to have someone play the bad cop, and I think Vernon might be a bit better at that.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll go for it. Microsoft is a business. All right. They're trying to make wise business choices to, well, they say, to appease their shareholders and all that kind of thing. And so they're trimming back again. They're trimming another 2,850 jobs by the end of fiscal year 2017. And I think about 900 of these had to do with marketing. If I remember right, I should. But I mean, it's split up a little bit. It's not happening all at once. And, it's very unfortunate when people lose jobs. But the fact was that, these people had worked at Microsoft. I'm sure they did just fine, and their jobs just getting phased out. Microsoft is very good about helping, relocation or job placement, and of course severance packages, things like that. So, it's sad, but that's the way things go. We really don't hear a lot about Microsoft hiring new people, but they're always doing that. They're always, they jump back up and it fluctuates. So. But it is a sad thing. 2,800.
Does it mention where they're from? Because it says fiscal year 2017. In that case, by then the LinkedIn merge would be complete by then, wouldn't it?
I think the LinkedIn merge, we'll see the results of that for some time. As far as just like with Nokia.
but when is it legally completed? Because if it's before the end of fiscal year 2017, what are the odds that these people who are going to be laid off are people who were at LinkedIn?
I don't know if they could necessarily even. I don't know why they would count those people right now, because they almost. I can't imagine they've taken real heavy inventory of what they have with LinkedIn, in my opinion. Now, of course, they did some scouting. They've done some polls, and they knew a lot of data.
Well, it was 26 billion worth of scouting, so.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's really tough for them to say, 2,850 people from LinkedIn who we have not acquired yet will be gone.
I'd assume they'd know the size of whatever redundant division it is that they're not going to need anymore once they merge the companies.
Yeah, if it is a division that's going. My understanding is that it is not necessarily. I think that they already know who these people are, and they're phasing them out. That's my understanding.
Okay.
If you want to know more than we are sharing with you, dear listeners, go to MSPoweruser.com and actually read the article. That will probably give you a bit more.
Don't be Andy.
Don't be an Andy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm not as filled in on it perhaps as I'd like to be, but then again, I have to be filled in on all this stuff. So, Andy, do you remember the Lumia? Do you remember the Lumia 1020? You know that phone?
Yeah.
Yeah, that.
Is that the one with the yellow paint job that you love?
Well, the Lumia 1520 had yellow. There are a few other ones that were yellow.
Okay.
But
I get some of these Lumia numbers mixed up sometimes. I'm sorry there. It's like build numbers, really. Throw enough at me, and it's like, okay, there's a jumbo puzzle.
Well, the thing is, back in the day of the heyday of the Lumia 1020, when this was released, it was pretty well known. I mean, like it was. I'm trying to think of it's like for a Mustang, the 5.0, okay, or Mustang 289 or people that it's pretty well recognized. Maybe that doesn't resonate with a lot of people, but the Lumia 1020 was the iconic Nokia Lumia phone. Had obviously the amazing image sensor on it, and it sold a lot of phones, but even more so, it was that aspirational device that people wanted to get. Reason I bring this up is that there were some other devices in the Nokia lineup that everyone loved. The Lumia 2520, for example, that was a tablet, an RT tablet, which was I think it was a 10-inch display, and that was it was released. It was on Verizon, and you could buy it unlocked, and it was decent, okay, especially for an RT tablet. Very, very few of them were out there. But there was a leaked photo basically showing a Lumia 2020, a Windows RT tablet. It was an 8.3-inch display, 1080p resolution, whatever. It did have a nano SIM support, which is, if I think back, I don't remember there being a lot of nano SIMs back before the 2520. So unless they went the order of releasing would have been 2520 and then the 2020 later, that would have been surprising. Anyway, it did have a stylus support. It doesn't say if the stylus was siloed. That's what I love, having that part of the device, but in device.
Yeah, it's always really nice to have it there. But I just want to say for a second that I'm just scouring this for an opportunity to say a hindsight's Lumia 2020 joke, but I can't find a place for that.
That would there's got to be a way to put something in there, but I don't.
There has to be. I'm not a professional comedian though, I'm afraid.
Well, someone will come up with it. It's that tweet is out there somewhere.
Yep.
The Lumia 650 XL, which of course didn't officially exist, but it was a canceled version of this. It was a canceled version of Nokia's Android handset, apparently the Nokia XL2, and whatever. I mean, the 650 XL, you can imagine it was an upgrade from the 640 XL. I can't imagine it's bad, and this would be much more recent, but we really don't have a lot of information on that. But basically, these devices make me nostalgic for traditional Nokias, especially the 900, the 950, 1050. I'm sorry, not the 950, the 920, the 1020. Wow. And even the 1520, the 930 was an amazing device. The 830 was whatever. I'm just listing phones at this point, but the phones that I've had that I've enjoyed were certainly in that list. And it's just kind of sad to see what could have been, but there was a reason for it. I don't know what, but it's not.
I think sometimes that instead of thinking about what could have been, as fun and sad as it is to do at times, sometimes we got to think about what's here right now, like build 14,939.5, which is available for, I believe it's both PC and desktop on both the release preview and slow rings for Windows Insiders.
Yeah, this is really odd that they had 14,939.0. That was basically what they're saying. Okay, this is basically RTM. They didn't say that, of course, but like we had the understanding that's basically RTM. And then they had...
it's time for the word police.
Yeah, and then, it was a junky build. It really was. There were people, some very mild-mannered people just tweeting directly at Donna Sarkar and whoever saying, I love you, dear, but good heavens, this cannot pass. And so after that they pushed out instead of a 0.0, they did a 0.3 update. And then they did a 0.5 update. And obviously they want this number 14,939. Maybe
it's the final build that was compiled. Everything after that is just preparation for a 0-day patch.
Yeah. So it's I don't know. This is just kind of odd, I suppose. But anyway, it's been on the fast ring for a while now. It's been pushed out to the slow ring and for general for release preview, and eventually it'll be general availability pretty soon. It's coming. Literally just a couple days away.
And you mentioned something being a little odd. Well, here's the next story. One of the potential names for the Xbox 360 was, wait for it, was it the Xbox 2? No, it was the Xbox 3. And,
what?
For anyone who... Yeah. And this was in an interview with a former Xbox executive. And he was talking about some of the stuff that happened around the 360 era. And Microsoft is, of course, their main competitor in gaming is Sony. Nintendo is also there, but Microsoft's aimed at the mature market, which is what Sony, of course, is also aimed at. And so the Sony's console for that generation was the PlayStation 3. The Xbox was tentatively titled the Xbox 2. That kind of makes it seem like it might be a generation behind, like it's the weaker version of the two. And that's what they wanted to avoid. This is something kind of similar to what happened with Windows 9 potentially being the last version of Windows. Well, then there's Mac OS X, which, Mac OS 10 didn't want to be one behind forever. Which, thankfully, as much as they love to jump around with numbers, we did not get the Xbox 3. And then, it's just like, we would get the Xbox 3, and then the Xbox One. And it's like, my head is spinning just thinking about this.
Yeah. And after that would have been probably Xbox 10 anniversary update or something.
Who knows? But thankfully we got the 360. They got their 3s. We got a name that didn't make me want to slam my head into a wall.
Well, it would make your head spin all the way around 360
until it hit a
degrees. Wall. Yeah. The naming on this, whatever. I mean, remember when Xbox itself sounded really stupid, and now it's just the way.
Yeah, it was going to be the Direct Xbox, but that's lame. So they went with this. Yeah. Have you ever noticed how the letter X is just is occasionally used to just randomly replace letters and words to make them seem cooler? I think I do kind of wonder if they kind of stuck with the name Xbox because of that. There's been so many interviews with old Xbox employees that I'd assume that info might be out there now. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But yeah. Right. On some more stuff about the Xbox. Ooh, we got a bit to talk about it. There's, like I said earlier on in the podcast, there's been a lot of new Xbox One preview builds out. If you're a member of the preview program, you've got a lot of downloading to do. And this latest build is interesting because it continues to merge the Xbox One and, as Vernon calls it, Big Windows. Because this one is adding other Windows settings, which includes Smart Screen Filter for malicious URLs, and they didn't mention anything else. But it's interesting to see what's going to happen as we have universal apps on the Xbox One, we have Smart Screen on the Xbox One, we have Cortana on the Xbox One, we have this and this and that that's all coming together, and it's like, this is going to be interesting to see, because it's kind of pushing the traditional console shape. And by console shape, I mean, you have a box that will play video games that are designed for that system. It will have its own controller designed for that system, and while there may be third-party apps, they will be few in number. The focus is all on the games. You will use this as a device to play games, and really not much of a movie device. It'll be able to play Blu-rays or DVDs, but that isn't the focus here. And the Xbox One name kind of makes sense in a way. I mean, I'm not going to defend calling the third console the first, but the one in it is to refer to one entertainment center, one platform, and now we have one Windows. So it's pretty neat to see some of this come together. What do you think about some of this, Vernon?
Well, I just don't have the experience with Xbox that some do, and I love that they're progressing with it. I love that Microsoft stuck it out with Xbox as long as they did. They're losing money on it, and especially the Ring of Death and all that stuff that they fought through, and now it's successful. And I mean, they had the 360 for, what was it, 7 years was the working model, and now they had obviously the Xbox One, and then moving forward with the different models. I really want to see a slimmed down version of this that's just for media consumption. And it is kind of unfortunate, actually, that they said, oh, hey, this is going to be your cable box. And then, oh, I guess not. We had a lot of harsh looks from all the cable companies. And so they redacted on that, unfortunately. But that is that's what I find appealing. And if this helps us get towards that, well, that's helpful. And eventually, be an Xbox in every household, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. And I think it's something that gives. I don't think it will give the average gamer more reason to buy an Xbox, but it's more bonuses for if you already have one, if you get what I mean. Because really, if you want to choosing between PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, the way I see it, really, okay, it depends on what type of games you want. Do you like Halo? Okay, we got Halo on the Xbox. Like Microsoft has their own franchises that are set out. Sony has their own franchises that are set out. You want Japanese role-playing games? Okay, PlayStation 4. You want some really good shooters that are unique to this system? Okay, Xbox One. But, yeah. And speaking of buying Xbox Ones, you'll be able to buy the Xbox One S in lower models on August 23rd. Like I mentioned earlier on the podcast, the 2 terabyte model will be releasing in early August. I'll be purchasing that one for $400 American dollars, but there are cheaper options available. There's 300. I'm sorry, my bad. There's 1 terabyte and 500 gigabyte models, which the 500 gigabyte one's available for $300 USD. 1 terabyte's available for $350, and these will be available on August 23rd. And there's also game bundles for these, which the launch edition of the S does not have any game bundles, which is a little annoying for me, but regardless, some of the people buying these will already have huge libraries for their Xbox One, and I guess that's kind of who the launch edition might be aimed at. But anyways, some of the bundles that will be available for this do include some of the games that you might want to buy an Xbox for. There's a Halo bundle, which includes a physical copy of Halo 5 and a downloadable version of the Master Chief Collection. So that's Halo 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And that's an entire franchise right there for the main series. There's two spin-offs that are shooters. Then there's Halo Wars, and Halo Wars 2 is coming soon. But yeah, you've got the main series all right there. So that's nifty. There's other ones, too, that are sports games like Madden, which I can't get into, but it's still going. There's people who can get into it. They're just not me.
Mm-hmm. I used to play Madden back in the day, probably PS2 or whatever it was. And, yeah, fun, okay. But, like, hey, I'm going to go outside, take a walk, and play catch. I'm going to throw a football around for real. But that's something that, gaming has its draw to me, but the draw is very, very small.
I bought Madden in 2007 because it was $140, and it's $140 I'd like to have back.
Oh, well. All right. Well, that's probably a good place to end it here. Thanks for listening. Well, we're episode 6 already, officially episode 6. Next episode, we might have a little bit something special, or not. I don't know. Just listen anyway. Thanks again for listening. You can follow the site on Twitter at MSPoweruser, of course. By doing so, you'll find out when each new episode is available for your consumption. We try to have it out every Friday, just before the weekend. And make sure you download it on using your favorite podcast app so that it is available for you right there. Man, Andy, best of luck with that storm that went through. I hope nothing was bad for you over on that end. We had some crazy stuff here, but weather, huh?
Yeah, I was afraid that the power might go out and might have issues recording, but thankfully that didn't happen. It was something that was just like 15 minutes of fury. It was just like this crazy torrential downpour. Like, it's like all the clouds just suddenly turned into rain instantly and fell for 15 solid minutes, scaring the cats to death.
You know, I didn't even mention it in the intro, but if you want to see some really interesting flash flood pictures, I had some very close experience with it. Yes, the night before. Even got some cool video of my son and I crossing the street, not in a dry manner. So follow me on Twitter. I'm at Vernon EL. Andy, remind everyone where they can follow you on Twitter as well.
You can find me on Twitter at FusionFan45, but trust me, that is never a good idea.
All right, everyone. You have a wonderful week. Take care.